There are nearly 30 million workers in Britain, but why do we all seem so angry? Sometimes it's the little things that can push us over the edge.
Get off the fence!
Is it the joy of making new friends at work? After all, we've got helpful labour-saving technology to ease the burden. And if even the bosses are getting crosser, what hope do we have?
And that funding is available so that businesses, universities, parents and young people endeavour.
Work is just a stressful environment for most people. A lot of people have jobs that they can't stand. That's why people get angry at work.
Some of the greatest anger in Britain is on our roads and is directed at one of our most disliked professions.
I don't like traffic wardens because I keep getting parking tickets.
Everyone hates traffic wardens. Yeah, traffic wardens definitely up there, giving you tickets for no reason.
Traffic wardens annoy me. I don't like traffic wardens. They're like vultures, yeah?
Traffic wardens are the workers most likely to be assaulted. They drive us into a rage, even though we're in the wrong.
The reason why we hate figures in authority, like traffic wardens, for example, is because in that moment, they are acting like our parents. We, of course, then feel incredibly childlike and so frustrated, and that's why we lash out.
Get up, left, 12 o'clock, right on the card. And first time you give me a ticket.
Traffic wardens, it seems, can provoke the wrath of young and old alike at the drop of a parking ticket. And when we let out our anger, it can take many forms. Like this masked motorist who's fed up with paying fines. After pelting these traffic wardens with eggs, he manages to scramble away.
Worst job in history!
Sometimes it's best to express our true feelings in song.
Worst job in history! Come on then!
But you know what? Even traffic wardens get angry too.
Do you know me? Do you know me?
Excuse me? You're harassing us. You're harassing us. You're harassing us. You're harassing us. Alone.
You lot of crackheads.
Really? Oh. This is the lovely traffic wardens that walk around in...
While we're getting wrapped up in our own anger, it's worth remembering that the people in the firing line, their emotional levels will be rising too.
He lost his job. He's lost his job after this. Yeah, you've lost your job.
Perhaps getting off the mean streets and heading for the skies means you can rise above anger. Alas not. Travel rage is universal, and it's not only passengers who dish it out. Like the check-in staff here in China, who make sure this passenger does indeed get a different seat. But it's even more terrifying when a whole flight erupts, and dangerous. In 2013, 140 international flights had to be diverted because of mid-air mayhem. Marcia Brackenridge and Vaughan Nico captured on camera two tribes going to war at 30,000 feet.
There was a group of people. One of the ladies, it was her birthday, and she made it clear a number of times, it's my birthday and I can do what I want to do, basically, and she did.
And for 2 hours, used the plane as a noisy party playground.
Well, obviously alcohol is a main issue that does affect people's behaviour. If you see that they're drunk, it can aggravate the situation if you don't want to serve them any more alcohol. So if, you think they're just perhaps a little bit loud, you might actually carry on serving them in moderation.
Some people do act differently in the confined space of a flight. Could be that they feel as if they're in some kind of isolated bubble, in limbo perhaps, and therefore the normal rules of existence don't apply.
Most of the passengers were cross.
It was getting unbearable. They were clearly getting out of hand.
But one man was getting really angry.
The third time he had to ask them to keep the noise down. They didn't like it. And that's initially what started the issue, the fact that he told them to shut.
Drink too much, you shouldn't get him so much bloody drink.
As birthday girl and irate man face off, a cup of hot tea goes flying.
Once she'd been burnt, she decided to go off to the air staff. She was telling them that her arm had been burnt. Her dad then came over and said, well, what's happened, darling? And she said, that man over there scolded me.
But no one could have predicted what happened next.
He just went straight over to the seat that the man was sat at.
The father stepped up and began to strangle the man.
People were jumping over seats and people were screaming, and it was mayhem.
As the fight carried on, more and more passengers got involved.
If you are over the Atlantic or something, could be really, really problematic because you don't have any option to divert. There are no emergency services in the air. So at 30,000 feet, it is entirely down to the cabin crew to deal with any incidents that may arise.
For more than half an hour, the aircrew battled to regain control of the cabin.
It is a very scary situation. The feeling was so intense at the time.
When you are on a flight, you are trapped with an amount of people. You are also very sensitive because you're in the air, there's a level of vulnerability. On top of that, you might be drinking alcohol. So all of these things create a pressure cooker. And the point is, if somebody is doing something that's really annoying you or disturbing you, you're going to want to react at times, so it can be a recipe for disaster.
The furious father was arrested on touchdown, along with his daughter and son-in-law, and they were fined over £2,000.
Okay, let's kick this off.
Coming up, motorists taking on wheel clampers. In Sussex, a builder destroys his own work in revenge.
I can get on my own premise, with your getting.
And it turns ugly for bailiffs who have to work the front line.
Get off!
Captured on camera, we've seen workers who get angry and those who deal with anger. Whether in the skies or on the streets.
Get up here, captains. 12 o'clock.
And why traffic wardens drive us round the bend.
Why are you harassing me for? Harassing you? Do you know me?
Yeah. Don't avoid payment. Right, now I've got your photographs, so you'll be reported to the police.
This ticket inspector discovers the hazards of an angry public.
You've just hit me then, sir.
And this bus driver has just been pushed too far.
You are. Hold on, come. Can you tell who you are?
You're getting a sack in the morning. You're getting a sack in the morning.
I will get a sack.
Yeah.
Do you want to get me sack? You can take any picture you want. Yeah. Take any picture you want. Take any picture you want.
People on the front line, like bus drivers, for example, are often on the receiving end of a lot of aggression because while we recognise that we are not in control of the journey, we then want to confront the person who we think is responsible, even though they often aren't.
What do you mean? I can get on my own premise,
Also working the front line and running traffic wardens a close second in the anger stakes are the workers who come to collect unpaid bills. Bailiffs.
British, come on.
Debt can play a huge part in anger and frustration because financial resources equate to emotional security. If we don't have much money, we often feel very unsafe, very insecure.
The guy only lives there, so we'll stick a sticker on it and go give the guy a knock.
More than 1 million motorists in Britain are being chased over unpaid parking fines. Modern-day bounty hunters like Alan Wood have to work the front line and regularly find themselves under attack.
We get people that are angry at us just purely because of who we are, what we do. You also get the other side where people are angry at themselves and they do the strangest things. You know, I've had people smash their cars up with baseball bats, smash every window, every panel, and go, "There, oh, then mate, take it." And think, "You've just smashed your car to pieces." You know? Some people, when they do go, it can be quite scary. I mean, I've had guns pulled on me, I've had machetes pulled on me, and you know, there are occasions when you look into people's eyes and you know this person will kill you for a parking fine, and it's time to get out.
Alan and his partner are on the trail of a driver who's racked up almost £500 of unpaid fines.
They've left a letter to the address and they put a sticker on his vehicle giving him a chance to pay, and he's phoned up and told the bailiff to essentially stick it. I'm refusing to pay.
Luckily for Alan, the vehicle's owner's at home along with his dad. If the debt's not paid in full, he's going to tow the young man's BMW away.
Leave the van now. Leave it out of that car, right? If he takes my car, smash on the road.
We get angry with bailiffs because invariably they're coming onto our territory and touching our possessions. These become an extension of ourselves, and therefore we feel particularly under threat when someone else is moving in.
So if there's any tickets outstanding, and now I've paid 400. I've never met you. It's the working cancel.
Dad's being reasonable and wants to pay up, but his son thinks it's so unfair.
You keep him under control and I'll sort this out.
Fine.
All right?
Junior has other ideas though, and tries to make a run for it.
Try and stop him driving into the van, it'd be great. I've locked the car in and he's doing his best to try and get out. And as he said, if I step on his property, he's going to punch me, so.
Violence and aggression can go off the scale when people approach or touch or damage our car because it feels like an extension of our own self. That feels like someone has invaded our space.
Put the camera away off me.
Matthew, enough. Matthew. Don't go, mate.
Well, I'll smash you in the face with it, you guys are filming me.
Matthew, I'm on public property.
I don't care. Put the camera down.
The bank of Dad coughs up over £400, but his son's still not happy.
How much have we just paid?
422.
Well, the car's not even worth that.
Okay, so there's one.
I'll just give him the car.
But he keeps the car and the young man's good to go. And now free to pick up more parking fines. Or speeding tickets. Bailiffs are not the only profession we love to hate.
Don't like estate agents because they robbed me when I sold my flat.
Yes, estate agents make me angry. They seem to be very much a type unto their own.
Politicians make me angry because they impose all these rules on us and they don't live by them themselves.
Can't stand telesales people.
All it takes is a couple of seconds. Oh, God, you just go and
ring you up and assume you are not in the middle of doing something.
I understand, sir. Good.
Invariably in a foreign accent that you cannot understand.
When I'm at work, what really ticks me off is disrespectful customers.
Yes, if Britain's a nation of shopkeepers, it means we're also a nation of customers. Rude, aggressive ones.
Arrogant, that's what he is. You want to say that?
At this supermarket, the customer is not always right.
Don't judge me my personal life, you understand? Exactly. My customer.
This checkout assistant has had enough of rude shoppers. And when staff at this burger takeaway ask this rowdy group to calm down, it all got very ugly. They've barricaded themselves inside their shop to make sure it's only their fried food that ends up getting battered. The shop staff decide it's time they served up something themselves. And unfortunately for one customer, they also deliver by making sure he gets his just desserts.
Workers get stress from their interactions with the public because they are the representatives of the company, so they can get abuse, physical or verbal, which ought to be directed at senior management.
There's no cheese in here.
When you have a cheeseburger, you have a cheeseburger. If you have hamburger, you have hamburger.
And in America, one hungry man is not impressed when his burger order goes wrong.
Not onion on this, not anything that I asked for. This is such incompetence, I cannot believe it. Please be competent once in your life. You goddamn sons of bitches.
Surveys have shown up to 40% of workers experience some kind of anger in the workplace, and that figure is rising. We're also more unhappy at work than ever before.
The reason we're unhappy in our society is because we work so hard, we don't necessarily earn that much money anymore, we're totally competing with what other people have got, and we don't really know why we're doing it most of the time. And that leads to so much confusion that in the end, we have stress levels that are so high, our patience is like that big. And that's all it takes, a look, a glare.
And when we do snap, that anger can express itself in many ways. One of them is revenge. Meet Nigel Gray. One customer pushed him so far that he decided to take his revenge. And to film it for good measure.
There is nothing more frustrating than when you provide goods and service for another human being in good faith and the job's done well and they refuse to pay you. It makes you absolutely livid.
Nigel specialises in putting up conservatories and extensions along the south coast.
We're a small business. My customers are important to me. Nothing more satisfying than collecting your final payment off a customer and they're really happy. You know, that's the name of the game, really. I'll go in and do my job for them, they trust me, I trust them, and we get paid at the end. But unfortunately, in this case, there was no money at the end of it.
Nigel built this porch for customer Anita Dovey, but then the trouble started.
He said, I've got you a cheque for $9,500. I said, well, it's not $9,500, it's near on 15. I think, well, $9,500 is better than nothing, so yeah, I'll take the cheque. And that's when it all went pear-shaped. The cheque came back.
For months, Nigel was left frustrated by a string of excuses and missed deadlines.
She came out, she was crying, and then told me her husband had died. And that's when I thought, oh, I'll back away for a little while and give you a bit of time.
What Nigel didn't realise was that Dovey's husband was in fact alive and well.
Everything about what she was saying was lies. I just sat and thought, do you know what? I'd be completely mugged off.
Feeling like you've been taken for a ride is humiliating. You feel with hindsight you should have known why, you think, am I just actually an idiot? And it makes us want to react, it makes us want to get something over on them.
And that's just what Nigel did.
I just thought, do you know what? It's built, it's bricks. I'm gonna have to smash it up.
Feel free.
Whilst Dovey sat inside with her daughter watching telly, Nigel's mate Tim set to work with a sledgehammer.
The satisfaction of seeing that brick, first brick come out, second brick come out, yeah, it's gonna end up into a pile. Tim, he'd seen what I'd gone through, you know, and he was angry. He was the man who was sharing a lot of anger with me. That sledgehammer was heavy, and he didn't stop eating that until the last brick was down.
Revenge is an incredibly human response. You want the other person to feel the same quality of pain that you yourself are feeling.
But Dovey did put in a fleeting appearance.
She's come trotting up the driveway and sort of just carried on and done her stuff walking up the road. I didn't look back, but she didn't want to speak to anyone.
A once angry Nigel was now ecstatic.
When that roof come rolling down off that porch and went tumbling down, it was fantastic. As it spun over on itself, it just smashed all the tiles as well. It was just carnage.
And we missed the car.
It was great. You know, your porch is gone, you know, it's gone. You know, there it is on your driveway, where it deserves to be. And you've now just got your comeuppance.
Yeah, lovely job. Look at that timber work, Bill. That was sheer skill. Yeah, you reckon? It's gonna go, here we go.
My feet never touched the ground for about 2 weeks after. You know, yeah, I felt great in myself. That was probably about the only satisfying thing, to leave, just to turn around and look at it all and think, do you know what? You're in a mess now. See you later.
Nigel may have taken the law into his own hands, but he felt vindicated. But does revenge really help anger in the long term?
Revenge is always negative. Revenge doesn't resolve anything. It gives you a temporary lift and makes you feel good about something, but then genuinely you've lowered yourself to a level. By lowering yourself to a level, you've lost.
Coming up, mayhem at music festivals. As the high spirits turn sour. Holidaymakers getting in a flat. And we'll be back as we meet the driver with a slot bucket, aiming to get revenge. Study after study shows we just don't like our fellow workers. The workplace can push us too far.
People often don't like their colleagues because they have to share that workspace with people they either would never socialise with or they don't like the personal habits of.
And a simple disagreement between these two American co-workers about who's going on their lunch break next soon gets out of hand.
Chill out, man. Stop it!
Back to the UK, where a hotel owner is a real-life Basil Fawlty. When a former waiter returns to collect his wages, the manager flies into a rage. Before dragging his ex-employee out of the door.
You get in the work. No, that because you got enough sense.
This bin man's had enough of his workmates' rubbish driving.
You're doing stuff, you know, listen to it, that's why you're stop.
After he managed to get their lorry stuck between two parked cars.
I think that in the UK we are becoming more open and expressive about our feelings, and I think that's a really good thing. But I also think that means that we've let out that other side of ourselves, the more angry, conflictual, challenging part of who we are. And that's something we have to learn to manage.
Simply getting to work can sometimes feel like a war zone.
Do you?
British workers face the longest commute in Europe. It's no wonder the country's employees are so wound up.
People get very stressed out, even angry on their daily commute, partly because there's so much that isn't within their control. Transport being delayed, for example, but also because we're often so squished in with other people in those forms of transport that we don't have any personal space any longer.
And sometimes the anger is taken out on the poor, helpless transport workers.
Drive your bus, you said 60p, I gave you 60p in it. What do you want now, bud?
But if you want to use your car to commute, there's something else to make you angry.
Not going nowhere. Please move out of the way.
Running traffic wardens close in the hate stakes are their fellow car park crusaders, wheel clampers.
I told you not to drive with your wings. I told you not to drive with what? Listen.
But drivers with an axe to grind are fighting back.
Okay, let's kick this off.
You're an idiot.
Some people need an outlet for their clamping rage.
You are a parasite.
You're not taking my car. I need my car.
These motorists in Southampton shouldn't get angry with the clampers or police. They should blame this man.
I used to be called the king of the clampers.
Trevor Whitehouse used to run Britain's biggest wheel clamping company.
It's in the reg.
Now that the clamping firms have been outlawed, Trevor and his wardens like Ken can only fine motorists who are parked illegally.
No permits.
Time.
So one of our final parts of the jigsaw is to actually issue the ticket and booked.
The perception of ticket issuance, not very good, but we have a job to do.
Do you want to do the honours?
We are civil enforcement. You know, that's what we're doing, and that does act people off. That's clunkily, you're nicked. People get angry when they get a ticket because they've been caught out. It's an inconvenience, it's a trespass. It's going to cost them money. They're really more mad at themselves than what they are mad at us, but they can't vent at themselves, so they vent at us. I've been stabbed, I've been shot at, we've had people set the dogs on us.
Who's done it, Joe? Not my dog.
We've had people come at us with bars, dumbbell bars, Stanley knives, switchblades, people butt you. I've had a girl punched and kicked to the ground, angle grinder in the leg. All these years, I've always been frightened that I come into work one day and a member of my staff was killed. You know, I'm scared because it could happen, as simple as that.
Being clamped does tend to push people to extremes because it's such a concrete act. Your car is trapped, and so are you.
When clampers struck in this Hampshire car park, the motorist, facing a £200 fine, cooked up a scheme to get her own back. She mixed up a bucket of slops at home and lay in wait for her victims to return.
This woman appears to have gone to enormous lengths to get her revenge. What we can see is that this revenge behaviour is very premeditated. Premeditated anger can sometimes be greater simply because it's been festering for so long.
Most of the sludge misses her target, so she pours the dregs onto the seat of his van.
But it does reveal quite how deep their anger goes, and they haven't been able to process it or let it go.
Hell hath no fury like a driver clamped. But surely we're less angry on holiday. Time to relax from the stresses of work. However, no amount of training can prepare airline staff for this kind of behaviour from this holidaymaker. So the man's wife takes over.
The expectation that a holiday can be relaxing and stress-free only adds to the stress if anything does go wrong or if other people are falling out.
For some Brits abroad, holidays are all about beating our European cousins in the sunbed sweepstakes.
This is it. Flamenco Oasis Olympics for the sunbed. Then they're off. Here they come. Woo!
People tend to fight over sun loungers because it's one of the few things that they can have ownership over on the hotel or on the beach.
Every morning they go through this scenario of getting sunbeds. Absolute bloody joke. Here we go.
But there's trouble in paradise when this couple find out that not everybody plays by the rules.
The rule in the hotel, you talk that well, you can move. I am very angry.
With neither couple backing down, it ends up in a Mexican standoff. Over at the Canary Islands, another holidaymaker's getting in a flat. She's returned from the beach to find her sun loungers taken by another family, as well as her clothes and towels in a puddle on the floor.
Where there's ownership, human beings, and entitlement, you'll get anger. The whole point is it's meant to be a break. If all you're going to do is get into petty, unnecessary rows with other human beings over the fact that you think that that sun lounger in that position was yours, then you're going to ruin and sabotage your own break.
Every summer, thousands of people are drawn to music festivals in the UK. fence them into a field, add long queues, lots of alcohol. It's one tough gig for the people who have to work them. For some, it gets too much and tempers flare.
Think you're a gangster or something?
There's 12 of you and I'm on my own, I'm on cuffs. Come on then.
Festivals have their own psychology. People behave with abandonment, frivolity, great fun. There's a lot less inhibition. But then people can come crashing down. And they might have had too much to drink, they might have been taking too many drugs. So what starts off as great fun can descend into something much more nasty.
Trying to keep a lid on it all is former soldier and bodyguard Robbie Naish. He's run the security at major festivals for over 10 years.
Okay, what we're going to do, guys, I want you two guys to be door supervisors, okay? We've experienced quite a lot of angry situations. A guy who was a bit worse for wear was running around with a machete. He'd already attacked one person. There's so many different things that we have to kind of be when we're dealing with these sort of situations.
People will come, they will
People in the firing line, even though they might feel their anger rising, do have to manage that anger to stop a situation escalating out of control. What they're trying to do is detoxify the encounter so that it doesn't get out of hand.
I'll go in there. You're at the front of a stage and there's 50,000 people behind you and you're getting pushed. You know, people who aren't used to that environment will get aggressive with other people.
Not only is there lots of high energy, but the high emotion can tip over into anger, especially when people feel that their personal space is compromised.
The guy that you see getting pulled out by the crowd safety stewards, a few people had complained that he was pushing into them and, you know, and pushing the girls up against the barrier and all that sort of stuff. Once he's pulled out of the barrier, the guys relax and the guy comes back and you see him hit the guy, you know, straight in the face.
Okay, look, I'm cool, I'm going.
So he's pulled out and suddenly becomes free and realises he's all right, but he's still holding all of those negative emotions, and he just turns around and punches the first person he can see possibly. It doesn't even necessarily have to be the person who was causing him the problem. It was the person closest to the problem.
No charges were pressed, but for the man who lashed out, his festival was over. He was chucked out. Sometimes even the presence of security staff can make people angry.
Get on your point.
The threats from the man in the cream shirt are getting nastier.
Think you're a gangster or something? Give me two, say. There's something in here. Give it here. I'll serve you right up and get your mum.
When you get into a situation like here, where they're being taken on, they're not intimidated. In fact, their game is to make the people who are threatening what they want to do intimidated instead. This is an aggressive man who's saying, at the end of the day, been in prison, I don't care, what can you do? It's so important in those circumstances that you do remove yourself from those scenarios.
Sometimes at festivals, the biggest problem's working out who's the victim and who's the aggressor, especially when people have been drinking and are refusing any help.
We're trying to get him to get some medical attention. He's been very aggressive still.
Sit down! Sit down!
Trying to calm the guy down, but he's not listening to any of it.
When you're dealing with somebody who's intoxicated or on drugs, they're not reasonable. Never, ever, ever try reasoning with unreasonable. You will not get anywhere apart from possibly hospital.
But the medical and security workers try one last time.
He doesn't calm down, he's screaming, he's shouting.
Just calm down!
And when the police get involved, It's the end of his festival. Coming up, more angry customers.
Why is it going back that way? Why is it returning?
In Manchester, airline passengers fly into a rage.
Where is the owner of this company?
And cabbies getting clocked. We've seen how many of Britain's workers are in the firing line. We seem to vent our anger at their position of authority. But few expect to get actually hurt. Yet every year, over 300,000 people are assaulted at work.
You've just hit me then, sir!
And night workers like this cab driver in Manchester are particularly at risk. His passenger hasn't got enough money to pay the fare and adds injury to insult.
People who work night shifts are more vulnerable to the excesses of other people. Let's say people who work in A&E departments or cab drivers often have to interact with people who have drunk too much alcohol, for example.
This passenger in the blue shirt is waiting for a taxi when another man enters the cab office. The bald man threatens him. Then, unprovoked, attacks with a headbutt. Until the passenger's rescued by the office staff, who pull him away to safety.
Taxi ranks can be a focal point for aggression, particularly in the early hours of the morning, because people have already had quite a lot of alcohol. Alcohol is often a factor in aggression and high emotion because it's a disinhibitor. So whereas we might keep those emotions in check, after a few drinks, anything can happen.
At this taxi rank in Manchester, the man in the baseball cap has been refused a taxi for being too aggressive. He's still angry when he punches another female customer. Passers-by try to subdue him, but he strikes out at a different woman. Another customer tries to calm him down by assaulting him.
The man comes along and meters out his own form of justice. He thinks he's doing the right thing, taking revenge, but actually he's committing assault.
Another group of transport workers who know all about customer anger are flight reps.
Go to another hotel!
The human punchbags of the travel business, dealing here with passengers on a delayed flight from Manchester.
We've taken holidays from work as well. Okay.
You are representing this company!
They're not here. Very easy answer for you.
You are representing people in your villages and families!
People feel that they can talk to customer service representatives in a particularly aggressive way because these are representatives of a much more faceless entity. Our rage is at the faceless entity, and now we have a human figure that we want to challenge.
We're animals! We are animals!
Eating our money, enjoying Eid in Pakistan probably, and we are still stood here trying to have our Eid!
The thing that really annoys me about low-cost budget airlines is the fact that when you're in the waiting area, in the departure lounge, and straight away they go to final call.
I don't like it when the seats are too small and there's no leg room whatsoever.
The lack of leg room and the cabin baggage and all that stuff.
Security checks annoy me quite a lot.
It's the waiting and delays and when the staff are rude to you.
It's nice and cheap and stuff, but so unorganised.
We've now contacted At least these passengers have made it onto their plane, but they're not going anywhere. High winds and refuelling delays have left the passengers stranded on the tarmac. They should have taken off at 8:25 p.m, but now, 7 hours later, it's 3 in the morning and tempers are rising.
They can't keep us on an airplane for 3 hours.
The reason why delayed flights are so stressful is often because this is actually for a holiday which is meant to de-stress us. Not only are we hoping to get away, but we've also paid for the privilege of sitting on the tarmac.
The airport terminal's now closed and everybody's gone home, except for them.
That's the police outside. We've been in the airplane for 3.5 hours.
Both the passengers and the captain of the plane have called the police asking for help.
I want to get out.
Right, what we do, we need to try and sort out to start off with.
There's an infant baby. There's little babies on board. Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Please.
Excuse me.
Sir.
Excuse me.
When officers finally free the passengers and crew, the police actually have to break into the locked terminal 7 hours after their flight should have left.
Our flight was supposed to leave at 8:25. We were on the plane since 12 o'clock at night. We just got off the plane now after we had to call the police 50 times.
Takeoff delays at airports seem to really provoke people, partly because they are so utterly out of our control. We feel very helpless, we feel very infantilized, and that's why we get so irate.
And maybe that's the lesson. It's not just the budget airlines.
You're getting a sack in the morning. You're getting a sack.
I will get a sack.
Yeah.
Do you want to get me sacked?
Perhaps we all just expect too much,
This is such incompetence, I cannot believe it.
demand too much.
You doing stuff, you know, listen to it. That's what
We don't like it when we don't get what we want. We get angry.
Get a letters.
And it's Britain's workers who are in the firing line.
Workers face many stresses at work, but sometimes it's simply the fact that they're in a job they don't enjoy, and because of financial constraints can't leave. Their frustration means that anything that goes wrong can be really exasperating.
Coming up next time, a red card leads to a red mist for this angry footballer. Faced with an airport wiping out his home,
my village is being demolished.
One man tries to get his MPs to listen.
Cameron is just blowing up.
And one very irate driver thinks he knows his rights in a road rage meltdown.
Yeah, it is assault. I am a lawyer. You are very, very stupid.